Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm gonna talk about the original Friday the 13th movie. I think it's from like 1980. I wasn't originally gonna make a video on it because I didn't really have a lot to say and it was mostly negative. But I thought about it and I'm like, I'm gonna at least try to make a video for the things that I watch with my movie group and stuff because today was Friday the 13th. And then on Sundays, in like 2 days, we get to watch something else again. And it looks like we might watch like Nightmare on Elm Street, which I've also never seen. But hopefully that works out. It is kind of nice to watch stuff like that and this and like all of those, like the beginning of all these like well-known horror series and stuff. I mean, I don't know if Nightmare on Elm Street's a series. I'm just surprised that like this one became like like made enough money and stuff where they just kept making more of them, because I didn't feel like it needed a sequel, but they kind of leave it a bit open at the end. I don't know, I guess it's just that I'm not really used to like slasher movies like this where there isn't really like a storyline. Like this is basically just like a bunch of teens, but you know, it's an 80s movie, so they don't look like teens, they look like they're in their 20s or 30s, and they're going around and like having sex and stuff at this camp. Actually there's like too much sex. There's a lot of just characters walking around like shirtless or barely wearing anything or whatever. It doesn't really even feel like hot or anything. It feels weird. I don't know, you know, especially because they're supposed to be teenagers, so it's just like, why are they all just like corny or whatever. And there's somebody going around killing them. There are two things I really liked with it. The first is that we sometimes have the killer's POV where the person being chased around or about to be killed is like right in front of the camera and stuff, so you look directly at it when they get killed. I don't think I'm like used to that in movies, so that was actually kind of nice. It made me more interested in stuff. And then there's a plot twist because they have this part at the beginning where it takes place in like 1950s where this girl goes to like an attic or something with her boyfriend, or like an isolated area of a cabin, you know, because it takes place at a camp, and gets killed. And I didn't really understand the significance of that, and I still don't. Especially because the killer, and this is like most of the movie I felt was kind of slow and a bit boring. I'll be honest, I don't really remember any of the characters or could describe the plot of like anything that happened in this movie up until the plot twist of like when the killer's finally revealed. Like the teenagers, they hang out and stuff, then they start finding more and more dead bodies. Like people are killed throughout. It is sort of like an okay pacing based on like the amount of deaths and stuff. Like usually people get stabbed. There was somebody who had an arrow going through their eye, and some of the bodies are like strung around the camp and stuff. It's one of those movies I'm okay with where there is like a lot of like blood and stuff on the victims, but it's like the effects are really bad, so it isn't that bad. Some of them are really bad. Like there's this part where this girl gets like stabbed through the neck, but it's done like so poorly, you know, because there's like a lot of horror movies like this one that are like low budget and stuff where it doesn't even look like she got stabbed. The injury just like appears on her and it's just like, oh okay, and then the fake blood comes out and the blood like looks fake. I mean, I don't like when things are super gory when there's like a ton of blood, but at the same time the blood looks so obviously fake that it's like I can't really take the deaths seriously and stuff. I think what did make this movie more entertaining though was that three things. Sometimes the way the camera is just goofy, where it'll like slow down when it'll be like a slow-mo thing when people are killed, or just the way things are recorded and stuff is kind of goofy. The music's actually pretty good. Like there's this like constant chase theme and stuff. The music, because it had so many like string instruments in it, kind of at times reminded me of Psycho. But then also it just kind of, when people were being chased, it sounded like the theme to Jaws, and my friends and I were joking around when I mentioned about that, of like, oh, they keep showing images of the lake or like footage of the lake because Jaws is in there or whatever. I think Jaws works as a better horror movie though, but I know that's like later on, and that's like later in the 80s or whatever. But yeah, they're able to sort of get away with some of the stuff being gory, of like people getting like shot through the eyes and stuff or whatever, like bows and arrows, or the way people are stabbed. I think just because the effects look so bad that in my brain I'm not viewing it as like, oh, that's pretty violent. The one thing that was a bit of an ick for me personally though was there's a part where there's this girl and she's laying in a bed, and there's something it didn't look like a knife. I didn't know what it was. It almost reminded me of like an X-Acto blade, the shape of it, where it actually goes through her neck, like directly straight through, and then the blood comes out. And the blood I didn't mind. It's just I think it's just when I see someone get like stabbed through the neck, it just feels more icky. Like the movie Hot Shot has something like that, where someone gets like impaled through the neck, and I always end up like kind of cringing a little and turning away. But yeah, the music has the like Sego strings, but also kind of sounds like the music from Jaws, so it definitely keeps up and adds to the tension, especially because the kills are like a bit lame. But I do like that like murderer first person POV. My friend did skip a little bit in the movie though. There's one part I didn't get to see, but he said it was that there was a snake, and I did see a snake on screen, and apparently it gets like killed for real, and he didn't want to show that, so I didn't see that part. There's like other things in this movie that also haven't aged well, like there's some parts where people are wearing stuff that's like a little bit racist. Like there's someone that wears like a Native American like headdress or something at one point. But yeah, I just felt like kind of bored through this. Like I didn't really know what was going on, even though I was like paying attention and stuff. I didn't really feel attached to any of the characters, but I mean, I feel like that's probably supposed to be the point, because it's like these dumb horny teenagers that are running around this camp. I don't think you're supposed to care about them. It's probably just like, hey, watch these people get murdered and whatever. And some of them just do stupid things. Like there's like the second half of the movie, it's like raining, and there's this girl who's like walking around in the middle of the night in like her underwear for some reason, and I think some other people with these raincoats just go like wander around outside in the middle of the night. Like what are you doing? There's a part where they found an axe that wasn't like funny or anything. There's just like this bloody axe that's on a bed, but my friend said, what was it he said? He made a joke of like, they just put the axe to sleep, don't wake him up. So like people's comments throughout the movie is kind of what kept me sort of semi-focused on it as well. I do like how things are visually shot though. Like the lighting feels realistic, of like actually being at a camp and stuff when it's supposed to be dark. You're gonna hear me talk about that with like a lot of movies. I feel like I've been doing that lately with my reviews, but it's just movies are so dark now that like when I watch an older one, I can actually see shit, and I'm like, oh cool. But I've just been thinking about that more lately. Like I watched A Midnight Summer's Dream today, the 1999 one, where the lighting made everything look really magical, but then here it just looked like I was walking around a outside or something. It was nice. This movie did give me the feeling of like being at a camp. I haven't been to like a camp since I was in like 6th grade, back in Scouts or whatever. So that was kind of cool. I'm just getting that vibe. And sometimes you don't even see people get killed. You just hear like a noise where there's this like Ned Flanders looking guy, and he makes this surprised face, and the killer is there, and then he just dies. That's it. You don't even see what the murder weapon is sometimes, and I thought that was kind of lame, because it's not like there's anybody running around with a gun. And I know sometimes in these kind of movies, like people usually get slashed with like a knife or whatever, and the knives are always like noisy for some reason. I feel like they wouldn't be that way in real life, but yeah, I don't know. But the blood effects do at least get better throughout the movie, and then you finally get the plot twist and learn some things, because you know, Friday the 13th, it's known for like, there's a guy named Jason, he has a hockey mask, he kills people. I waited the entire movie for him to show up, because I assumed, you know, it's his franchise, he's got to show up somewhere. No, he's not in this movie. And I didn't know. I do like the plot twist though. Well, Jason is technically in this, but it's a flashback as a child. Apparently he's been dead the whole time, where he drowned and the counselors were too busy to notice, and you think Jason's gonna be like the killer or whatever, or at least that's what my friend said anyway. I wouldn't have even known Jason existed until this point, because I mean there is a flashback to like the 50s or whatever, but they don't show Jason in it. It just shows these people getting killed or whatever. But the killer in this is actually his mom, who's mad at like her son drowned, and you know the counselors were busy making out and stuff. I was thinking about that because it did seem like at first she was targeting like couples and like people that were like off making out and doing whatever, and at first I thought like, okay, is it gonna be some kind of lesson of like, oh, if you're like having sex you get murdered or whatever, but no, she kills like everyone except for the final girl. But yeah, she wants revenge for her son. So I thought that was actually a good plot twist. I wouldn't have expected that. I mean, I did kind of get the vibe as soon as she was like properly introduced. The final girl finds all these bodies, and then this older woman shows up in her car or whatever, and the girl's like, oh my gosh, these people, I just saw all my friends die, can you please help me, don't leave. And I was thinking like, wow, this woman is like so like unfazed by hearing about these dead bodies. Like, even if you didn't believe this random teenage girl about these people being killed, wouldn't you at least be like trying to calm her down or seem like somewhat concerned? But this woman was like completely calm, and then I was like, oh, okay, she's probably like the killer or something. And then she is. But I do think it's interesting she also pretends to be her son, where she says things pretending it to be in his voice of like, kill that girl, mommy, or whatever. And it kind of also reminded me of Psycho a little bit. But yeah, and then at that point you have like 20 minutes of the movie left, and it finally kind of picks up a bit but it does kind of go on for a while. Like the final girl, she is sort of smart. I don't remember what her name is, so I'm just gonna refer to her as that. I know that's like the trope of like, who's the final person that survives, and usually it's a girl. Like she does end up finding a gun and stuff, but she doesn't ever end up using it. And she has to like run away from the killer. It just kind of drags. At first I was excited, I'm like, okay, cool, something's finally like happening with this movie, but just kind of drags on, which feels kind of lame, because like one of the people is like a teenage girl and the other one is like the killer, who's like this like 40-year-old like suburban mom looking lady. And I was wondering how she was so strong. She's like 40s or 50s or something. Like she's not super young or anything, and she easily pushes around the girl she's trying to kill, like literally shoves her into like a table or something, and it falls over. She had to hang like multiple people around in different locations, like hanging with the noose sort of hanging, and like stringing up their bodies and whatever. And I'm like, you have to be like probably pretty strong to pull around corpses and shit. But she just is. I mentioned about that to my friend. I was like, how the hell is this woman so strong? And he was like, power of her mother's rage. And then he was talking about this stuff, and I don't even know if it's true or if he was just like theorizing or whatever, or thought the movie was being like clever than it actually was, but I wanted to bring it up anyway, where they kept showing shots of the full moon, and they did it at the beginning too. And he was thinking like, oh, the full moon might make the crazy people even more crazy, but I don't know. I just thought it was supposed to be, you know how the full moon, besides being associated with like werewolves in these kind of movies, but like the full moon, you know, things are usually a bit more spooky or whatever. Or I can think of a lot of movies where there's like a shot of the full moon or whatever. But yeah, the chasing and the fighting, it kind of just goes on for a bit too long, where it just isn't really fun anymore, where they do attack each other and stuff. Like there's a part where the final girl gets like cornered in a room or something, and the mom just slaps her, and it's supposed to hit pretty hard, but I'm like, okay, really, you're just gonna like slap her to death? But then she ends up getting decapitated, and then my friends were saying that like apparently the movie, the person who's making the first movie, they already had the sequel for like the second movie, so we knew like Jason had to survive somehow. And also the reason Jason has to exist in the sequels is that his mom gets decapitated here, so like, she can't kill anybody anymore. It was actually kind of funny when she got decapitated. I wasn't expecting it, but then when you look at her body when she gets decapitated, I mean, there's blood, but it also kind of looks like her neck's full of stuffing or something. But it's weird to me with Jason. I don't get it. Where he's, is said to have drowned here, but then he exists in the sequels and stuff. But then they have this thing where there's like a victim scare, and it did actually get me. I was startled, where the final girl, she kills the mom, and then she goes in a canoe, and I'm like, why is she going into a canoe? You can just leave. Everyone's dead. Why are you going to go out there in the middle of the water? What if you fall over and you drown or something? But the whole reason that even happens of like she goes in there is because then it's the next morning and the police are there, and then Jason grabs her and tries to drown her, but then it's actually it's a dream, it wasn't real. And then she asked the police about it, and they're like, there wasn't anybody in the lake when we got you or whatever. And that's like supposed to set up a sequel. I don't know. I don't think I'll watch the rest of these. I mean, they probably get better, but I am like curious of like, I guess we get to see Jason in the next one. Apparently my friends were saying he's like a fully grown man, which makes sense, I guess. But then he looked kind of small. I don't know if it's because it was the main character's dream and knowing he like died as a child or something, but he did look kind of corpse-like, which I thought was cool. Apparently he just shows up as like a normal human guy, and I'm a little disappointed because I think it would be kind of cool if like, what if he did drown in the lake and he's like kind of looks a little like a corpse, or like water's constantly coming out of his mouth or some shit. Would be cool. Apparently he does end up as a zombie, but my friend was saying it was like by the 5th or the 6th movie where apparently they killed Jason, but like the creators wanted to make more money, so they have him come back to life as like an undead, which at that point then it just sounds kind of silly. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know if this is supposed to be one of those movies that like nowadays it feels really tame with the kills and everything, but like maybe back then in the 80s it was like something must have clicked with people because this thing kept getting sequels. So I don't know, maybe that's why. Maybe me watching it from like a 2025 experience and like how movies are now and stuff, like horror movies, or I think it's just because I'm not used to like slasher movies, let alone like low budget slasher movies. So I just felt kind of bored. I don't know if I could even say if it's like a good or bad movie. In my opinion, I can just say like it wasn't for me. But if my friends do decide to watch the sequels and stuff, I'll watch too. I don't know if we will, because it's like everyone's picking a movie to watch and we have like 3 different days that we watch movies and things. But it looks like we might do Nightmare on Elm Street next, so I hope that'll be better. And then after that, like a couple of days later, it's my turn, and I picked to watch Leprechaun, mostly because I really want to make a review on it, but also because my brother's been pestering me to watch it for the past year, and he said specifically it's a really dumb movie, watch it with friends, it's supposed to be like funny. So I'm like, this is finally the year I watch Leprechaun, so I took my shot and I'm like, let's watch Leprechaun, you guys. Hopefully they'll be cool with it, especially because we've been like voting on movies and stuff. I don't know if people have like multiple picks or whatever, but we'll see. I just like mentioning that as I'm making these, of like, hey, this might be the next thing I do or whatever, I review or whatever for like Halloween stuff. Yeah. But yeah, maybe I'll just watch like a little bit of the second movie if I find it somewhere, or like at least a trailer. I just want to see what Jason's like in the context of these, because everyone knows what he has his like hockey mask, and I'm just like, who is this guy? I'm like more curious, how the heck did he like survive drowning, and why didn't his mom know? Because their whole thing here is like killing people for revenge, and like they finally opened up the camp and stuff. Alright, yeah, well that's it for me. I just wanted to kind of briefly talk about it. Like, even when I was watching the movie, I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but then I got to the twist with the mom and I was like, okay, you know what, that's pretty good. There was some things I liked about the movie. But yeah, not really for me, but still alright, I guess. Alright, bye bye, see you next time.